If you're hearing this podcast and want more like it, visit patreon.com/dissectingthe80s, where you can get like 30 hours of bonus content at the $5 tier. Visit patreon.com/dissectingthe80s to find out more. Welcome to Dissecting the 80s. I am Tripp Lano, one half of the Mega Podcasting Powers, and with me, as always, is this podcast's Roman, the Macho Man Drew.
Andrew Lano. I don't know if I love that. I'll let it slide, but I don't know if I love it. I'm more of the Annette Bening.
I just like to get a little bird in every once in a while. If I could,
that's a shot.
Sometimes it's like,
if we're being honest, I'm definitely more the Annette Bening of this podcast.
That seems more accurate. I just thought you would not like that, and it would amuse me. Yeah. And check both boxes. We are celebrating a new holiday on this podcast. It is Candy-ed Yams. Did you know John Candy's birthday is Halloween?
No, I didn't. That's really fun.
Yeah. So this is like sort of close to that anyway. He would have been 72 this Halloween.
If we didn't love the Spooktacular so much, we could do a before and after Wheel of Fortune and do Halloween Candy-ed Yams and do 4 episodes in a row of John Candy.
Just all John Candy. Well, maybe we'll slip Nothing But Trouble in down the road, which is kind of like a horror movie. Although that might be 93. But anyway, so this is a new month. Maybe we're not sure. Sometime it may or may not be all candy all November. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. But we will certainly do a John Candy movie every Thanksgiving. So we are kicking things off this new month with one of our family faves. It is The Great Outdoors with Dan Aykroyd from 1988, directed by Howard Deutsch. And we watched it, so you know what that means.
We gotta go back. We gotta go dissect the 80s. It's your bald-headed killer bear. Something about your bald-headed killer bear.
When the mega powers explode.
I'm talking about the 80s. Oh, yeah.
Great Scott.
Cream of the crop. Oh, yeah.
Mega powers, yeah.
When this baby hits 88 miles per hour, you're gonna see some serious shit.
You were clipping way more than normal on that one. I'm imagining the audio file is just like a bunch of really sharp spikes.
Yeah, it's wide. It's tall and wide. I also just I keep getting further away from Christopher Lloyd.
It is sort of its own thing. I mean, it is the 229th episode of this podcast, so maybe we can retire.
I wish someone who cared enough to just cut out just me saying that from the beginning so we could hear how off the rails it's gotten.
Maybe for episode 250 I will get one from episode
take the first couple and then the last couple and we'll just hear what happened.
Although if somebody wants to make a super cut of all of them, be my guest. I will happily promote the hell out of that. This is, as I said, one of our family faves. So if you're out there, we'd love to hear what yours are, because I feel like this is a staple thing for all families, that there's a movie that is popular in your household much higher than its relative popularity outside.
Oh yeah. I feel like Flight of the Navigator was one of those that
yes, a family fave for us for sure. It's
although much like Flight of the Navigator, I feel like this has not come on rotation in the family beach house trips.
Flight of the Navigator dipped out, and I feel like this one lost it used to be this and Summer Rental were guaranteed summer movies, and then it started to fade, and Summer Rental was the more often picked one, and then it just hasn't happened. Yeah. So, but also, we're all older. We do other things than just watch a movie now. So puzzles become a popular thing.
That's true.
Just, family pastimes change, so we do other things.
Because I feel like I haven't seen this in maybe 10 years at this point.
I don't think it's quite 10 years for me, but it's been quite a long time. I feel like it's popped on at the house more recently than in 10 years, but I really enjoyed watching this. And this is a thing I was talking about with my wife not too long ago. We had a real lazy day, and I was doing a lot of Halloween movie watching a lot of scary stuff. And it's all right, do you want to do you want to just order some pizza in the when Domino's opens and just eat the pizza all day and watch horror movies? Because we could both use a day of nothing. And it was yeah, that sounds dope. So we did that. We got pizza and we watched 3 movies, not back to back to back, but 3 movies over the course of the day. And I was saying you got to pick your morning movie carefully.
Oh yeah.
Because like there are morning movies and there are not morning movies, and like there's a hard line between the two, so you really got to be careful. And I happened to watch this in the morning, which is not something I was like intending to do or anything, but I was like, oh, this is a great morning movie. I think it's a great morning movie. It's very cozy. Like the cabin, like even though it's like sort of a vacation gone awry movie, like the cabin itself is very cozy. And it's just like, a good, cup of coffee and a donut movie is just really solid.
My boyfriend actually had that exact same conversation the other day because I was like folding, I was like doing laundry. So I was like slightly, I don't want to say active, but I was like doing an activity. But we like wanted to like hang out and like watch something while I did that. And he was like, well, we could watch the new Interview with a Vampire that we both really want to watch. And I was like, it's like 9 a.m. on a Saturday or 10 a.m. on a Saturday. I was like, I really want to watch that show, but it feels like it shouldn't be this bright out.
Yeah. I get that. And also there's like a vibe too. Like certain horror movies could be morning horror movies, but not all horror movies. Yeah.
Like I think so we ended up watching the first 2 scary movies, that like actually good ones.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I feel like Scream and I Know What You Did Last Summer could be morning horror movies.
Scream, because I think you need to have like familiarity, and then the vibes is like the two, either one or both, is important. And for like, I love Scream. My wife loves Scream. It's probably her favorite. That's one that's totally a morning movie for us. I actually suggested Scream that morning for the pizza, and we ended up picking something else. But it was like Scream feels like a good morning movie for us. Yeah. Like it's not too yucky. It's not too intense, and because you've seen it a bunch of times, it's like all familiar. And So
you get to do your Drew Barrymore impression. So
yeah. I can't say enough good things about that movie. By the way, I truly think it's a modern masterpiece.
Oh yeah,
it's. I mean, I know that like this isn't like a bold opinion to say it,
hot take.
Truly, like hot take. Scream is great, but it truly is like a modern masterpiece.
Well, it's like, one of the movies that I would say like changed. I mean, not movies, but changed horror movies.
Absolutely, it did. Yeah, and then made a lot of bad imitators, much like Halloween.
Yeah.
Anyway. On to this movie, which I do genuinely like, and I'm looking forward to talking about. Yeah. The thing I think that really works for this movie more than anything else is how much the Chester family, right? That's their last name, right?
No, his first name is Chester. Ripley is. It's Ripley Chester. And Craig.
Does he play Jack Chester in another movie? Is that his character in A Summer Rental?
One moment.
Okay. Jack Chester is the name of his character in Summer Rental, which is funny.
Jack Chester in Summer Rental, Chet Ripley in this, his son Buckley Buck in this.
Okay.
So it's...
Okay. Yes. Very confusing. Anyway, also, I didn't know this, but in reading the IMDb, the wiki for this, the 3 of these characters, along with Ferris Bueller, appear at the end of She's Having a Baby.
Yeah, I saw that.
Like... It's like this weird, like the universe, all the John Hughes-verse is tied together, which is fascinating.
I've never even seen She's Having a Baby, so.
I haven't either. I think one of our Patreon supporters, Michelle, has thrown it in her Patreon request a couple times. It just hasn't gotten pulled. Oh. But I in the past, I think I learned about it through that because our mom liked John Hughes, but only a selections from the catalog.
A specific John Hughes.
Yeah, so some John Hughes, I'm like, oh yeah, classic. And then other stuff, I'm like, oh, he made more movies than that, huh?
It was more than just 5 movies, right?
Yeah. Much like John Candy, frankly. Some of the fun, I think, of this is going to be when we get away from the ones we're familiar with, which is a relatively small selection of his pretty vast back catalog. Anyway, but the family, they all like each other very much. Like they're singing, they're doing this yakety sax singing along in the car, and it's like, sorry, yes, yak, not the Benny Hill thing. But they all like have a defined part.
That's
like,
what I was
clearly something they do.
It's like the opposite of Christmas Vacation.
100%.
Not that obviously both movies set the tone, but like it's nice to see the family enjoys each other.
Right. And that like the first 15 minutes of this movie really perfectly shades and fills out who these characters are. They all kind of get some level of motivation and what, what's going to be going on with them. And then,
unless you're
the whole
under
movie
12,
unless
you're 12 or under, in which case you are here for set dressing.
Yeah, the young son and the 2 daughters are just for gags. They are there for gags, and that is it, which is fine. Like would you like this movie more
No.
if there was more going on with those characters?
No,
Like, no,
I don't even
course
think.
not.
I think the teenage boy doesn't need as much screen time as he gets. I'll say that now.
That does drag. We'll get there. That does drag for me too. And the other thing I love, so they're doing yakety yak and they're singing along, and mom does the deep voice, because that's kind of a silly thing. And we get to the thing. He pulls in between this grove of trees in the parking lot of the place, and we go to an overhead shot, and you can see what's about to happen before it happens. But it's just a perfectly built visual joke of just like, oh, and then all four doors simultaneously smack into trees. It's just really good visual storytelling, visual.
Do you think that kind of stuff was written in the script? Because I feel like it's a staple of John Hughes movies, and I don't know which is it the chicken or the egg? Like, did he write that, or did he just in his early movies found people who did that, and it sort of became the genesis?
So some of that stuff has to be in scripts, right? And then other stuff I feel like comes when you're location scouting or something like that.
Yeah.
So I don't know the answer for this particular movie, but some of this has to be because this required renting a crane.
Yeah.
Right. So this wasn't like
Unless they got a guy,
it's pretty easy
put
to
a ladder between two trees and.
Yeah, I guess they could have done something like that, or even just like a 15-foot or 20-foot ladder. But it requires more effort than you think it. Like now, they would somebody has a drone and it cost $18, and they just were like, and then they shot the shot. So my guess is it was planned a little more in advance, but it definitely feels like, oh hey, this would be funny. Like when they were walking around the thing versus like in the script, like it was a production joke versus a written script joke. But I don't know and John Hughes, frankly, like it wouldn't surprise me if he wrote it. He was a pretty meticulous person from what I understand. So we go to check in, and this is the place not only where like John Candy grew up taking vacations, but also where he and his wife honeymooned. The wife here is played by Stephanie Faracy, who is excellent in this movie, really good. She and John Candy in particular have spectacular chemistry. They feel like a real couple who love each other. It's fantastic.
They do, and she's the mom in Hocus Pocus.
Yes, and she popped up in it's fairly old now, but I think it's called Mike and Dave Need Wedding Dates. I
think you're right.
I think it's Zac Efron and Dave Franco, and
no,
I saw her in that. Is it not Zephron?
No, it is Dave
Franco for sure.
Oh, I thought it was Zephron and the guy from Pitch Perfect who leaves to be with John Mayer.
No, I don't think so.
It's Dave Franco.
I thought. Now I have to look this up.
I swear it's Zephron and guy from Pitch Perfect. I've never seen it, but I've seen the poster.
I've seen it. No, you're right. It is the Pitch Perfect guy. Adam Devine. I'm not sure you say it. You're right. Sorry. Anyway, she's in that as one of the parents. I forget of whom, and it's irrelevant. But I just remember seeing that movie and being like, "Hey, the great outdoors!" and being very excited. The one person who saw that movie and had that reaction. But so we're like checking out the lodge, and it's just like I don't want to recap every joke in this movie, but there's just so much good stuff that the Candy gets to play with. For prompt service blow me, and he blows on this horn that really like blows out the whole cabin, and then this dog leaps up and is barking. It's just good stuff all over.
And we get Chekhov's gun lamp.
Yes, which is a very funny twist on the actual Chekhov's gun, I feel. And
as we like see them being very happy with this like pastoral, is that the word?
Yeah, I mean, maybe not 100% correct, but I know what you're saying.
Yeah, like woodsy atmosphere. We keep cutting to this, isn't it Mercedes?
Yes.
This like silver Mercedes, like flying around these curves, the mountain curves to like very appropriate sax music.
Yeah, and also a lot of close-ups of hands with like fancy jewelry. There's a Rolex you can see. There's like a gold bracelet on.
Yeah, I feel like he should have been wearing driving gloves if he wasn't.
He isn't. He's barehanded, but that would be a nice touch. Also, I do want to quick shout out. Robert Prosky is the character actor who plays the owner of this vacation destination where they are. He and his wife own these cabins. Yeah, resort. Thank you. And he's also the ticket taker in
Last Action Hero. I was like, he's been in a bunch of other things. I was like, it's Last Action Hero. It's a big one.
But he's like the perfect spice in this movie. Like every time he comes in, he gets one good thing to do and does it perfectly. But I really love, this is very stupid, but he's wearing a shirt in this opening section that just says, "I've been to Duluth." Like, that is like the perfect encapsulation of a shirt that if they don't, should sell in Duluth, because it's like, it tickles me. Like if I went to a relatively small place and there was a t-shirt that just says "I've been to" and the name of the city, I would probably buy it because it's so silly.
Yeah,
like
maybe a state outline.
It tickles me the right way. No. It can't have any. It can have no. It just can have the phrase "I've been to blank." There can be no indication of where that is, why that's important. Because who gives a shit about Duluth? People in Duluth. No offense if they're out there listening, but people in Duluth, I don't think care that much.
Probably not.
I also love him like riding on the hood of the car as they drive to their cabin.
Yeah, I love that they have to give them, like, they have to direct them. For like, can you imagine having to direct every person who comes? I mean, I assume it's like 5 cabins that they own. I assume it's not like a sprawling estate, but still.
Right. I also assume just some of this is boredom. He's like, yeah, we'll just take you there. Here, my wife and our huge, smelly, slobbery dog will get in your car and I'll sit on the hood and you drive 5 miles an hour there.
Yeah. Because a few weeks ago, my boyfriend and I went to one of those kitschy champagne tub resorts up in the Poconos, and it was this kind of setup where it was like you went to the main like building to do the check-in, and then they're like, okay, here's a map and here's how you drive to where your little resort, your little room is.
I've had that same experience when we went to Pigeon Forge last year. Yeah, last year they had you check in at this one building, and then there were like 5 buildings that the accommodations were in, and they had to like. It was like I was like, wow, this is. It was really
like Vegas Vacation.
Yeah, because it was like, imagine you're in like one building, and then across like a 4-block spread are the buildings where the actual accommodations are, and each of them has a different parking garage with different instructions.
Oh wow!
So I was like, okay, I hope I got this right. And I love the line here. She's like, we sunk over $300 renovating this place, not including what we spent on Lysol.
Well, I heard that and I was like, was that not impressive in 1980 whatever? Or was that, I was like, what does inflation mean?
I mean, I think that's like $500-ish. I could look it up, but that feels about right. The joke is that they did not spend that much money.
Okay.
Yeah.
I also, like, when I was younger, didn't get the joke that this cabin was rented out by a bunch of fishermen who like didn't clean it, and then the proprietors didn't clean it.
Yeah. It's one of those things where I'm like, if I checked into this place, I would blow a gasket. Mm-hmm. And I'm not a gasket blower by nature, but I would be like, hey, hi, you have rented me a place with rotting fish all over it, including tiny ones in the ashtrays.
I feel like it would have been there's opportunity for bits of like they like pull down the sheets and go to fluff a pillow, and there's a fish like they just like tucked the fish under the rug, like what's this lump under the rug, and it's a pile of fish. Like,
I do wonder if some of that stuff was like filmed and cut. Speaking of fish, did you see what the original scripted ending for this movie was and how much worse it is?
The gold coin?
No. So the original ending for this was the way the twins got in trouble was that they were fishing in the rowboat, and a giant fish that was like the legend of the lake, like they caught it on a line, and then the fish was like dragging them to their doom.
Oh no.
And they even built a mechanical fish. Like they got that far. And then it just didn't work right.
No,
and so they dropped it and rewrote the bear thing.
10 years ago.
Yeah. But I was just delighted by the idea of like this movie would like, I know this movie is not beloved other than in our family, I think, although I'm sure there are other people out there who like this, obviously. But if this movie had a giant fish in it, it would be just, it would be
the giant octopus in the Goonies.
But
you know, I heard the ending that was supposed to be that Chet found a rare gold coin in the well or the mine.
Oh, interesting.
And then he was like,
so Goonies,
kind of, yeah, but it was like it wasn't like a chest. He found like a single gold coin. He was like, well, now this is like worth millions of dollars, so I'm going to buy the cabin. And we're like, it wasn't just gonna be like, and now I'm rich, sucker, get it. Peace out, nerds. It was supposed to be like, oh, I'm going to buy the cabin and we're all going to come here every year and blah, 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 blah. But also I'm rich.
Oh, interesting. I did not see that at all. That was not on the wiki. So Aykroyd finally arrives, and the wife gets out and she's like, I don't know. This is weird. Like, we're just showing up on their vacation. He's like, oh, come on. All the times we invite them to go on the cruises. And she's like, yeah, they don't come.
But no, she was like, that's different. We weren't invited here.
Yeah. And he follows this up by busting out his shoulder cannon video camera that we used to have.
His capital Y, capital F, your father's video camera. Trademark.
Yes. And this part is so weird to me. Like the two women are sisters, and these are the, like, you know, their husbands, and they don't get along. Is the sort of, you know, it's sort of a slobs v snobs thing, although the Candy group is not really slobs, but they're just not as well off. But like they're having this like intimate moment, and this is the part I was like, oh my god, I cannot believe the chemistry between Stephanie Faracy and John Candy, because like it's just so charming and cute.
My moment is later really for that.
Together. Okay, but they're like. He's like, you know, they're doing like a heavy flirt, starting that they're, you know, going to go to bed together. And I can't even say go to Bone Town like we normally do, because that's not what's happening here. This is like a romantic,
this is like a sweet, flirty.
Yeah,
we're alone. We haven't been alone like this in a while.
Yeah, and Dan Aykroyd is filming this and like close enough that he can hear the like silly things they're saying to each other, and the woman isn't just like, stop filming my sister. Like, it's just such a bizarre relationship.
Yeah, well, and her kids are there.
She's covering their eyes, so at least there's like a little bit of that. But yes, agreed, the children are standing there.
Yeah, I think it's funny. I mean, it's funnier if they're just having like a romantic moment between the two of them, that they think they're alone and like confessing feelings, and then they're like, ha ha ha, you love each other.
Right. You know, they're like, ew, get a room, you two. That kind of thing is like the tone. But it also, I will say, totally fills out the character for Dan Aykroyd. This and the next sequence where he's sitting on the lake. Looking at the lake with John Candy. Also, did you notice, I don't know if I've clocked this before, but they're drinking out of like Burger King or McDonald's type giveaway Star Wars glasses.
I did see that online, so I looked for it.
Okay. I noticed Aykroyd's cup has Jabba on it. But yeah, so they're sitting there, and Aykroyd is this like uber capitalist. Like, I see.
He's the frozen rich guy from Futurama.
100%. Yes. Yeah.
Like the fact that he is not wearing wide suspenders, and is it a striped shirt or a blue shirt that they wear?
I think it's a blue shirt. Like, but with sometimes the cuffs and collar are a different color.
White, yeah.
Yeah. But he's like, I see medical refuse sunken in the lake and sealed for generations. And like, I see a paper mill and a mining operation. It's just like destroying this beautiful, beautiful vista that they're looking at. It's just like an unbelievably beautiful thing that you get to look at. And his only thought is like, how can I maximize?
How can I make money off this?
Yeah.
And then he turns to John Candy. And he says, now what do you tell? Because he starts his monologue by saying, I'll tell you what I see, if you let me. And Candy's like, sure. So he goes on his diatribe. And then he's like, now you tell me, what do you see? And Candy goes, I see trees. I see trees.
It's delightful. The only thing that would make it better is if they were drinking like more of a drink. I assume they don't touch them. It's just like a water glass. But if it was like a G&T and Candy was just like downing it while he was talking.
Yes, that would have been so perfect.
Picks up Aykroyd's and downs his too. I'm like, oh, look
Reaches
at that.
Reaches into the cooler to pull out another beer.
Uh-huh.
And John Candy's thing actually reminded me of my boyfriend, because as we were like going around, like walking around the resort, I was like, there's a lake somewhere here, because in the summer you can rent paddle boats. So I was like, let's try and find out where the lake is. And I was like, I think it's up that hill. The hill was like just tall enough that you couldn't see over the crest. And so I was like, so let's walk up there. So we like walked up, and my boyfriend just goes, that's a lake. It's now our catchphrase, and I just like lost it. And I was like, objectively not funny, but it also reminded me of this moment.
Yeah, for sure. And it's just like Candy plays this with just like a seething indifference to this man. Like, it's like he doesn't even want to care about this guy enough to hate him. He's just like so upset that he's going to be there. And this is when he finds out, like, oh, by the way, we're staying here for the whole week. We've just taken over your vacation.
Yeah, it's the we're taking her with us when we leave here next month moment.
Yes.
A lot of parallels I'm noticing now between Great Outdoors and between Christmas Vacation and this.
Yeah, well, I mean, Christmas Vacation 100%, like, they are two sides of the same, or two versions of the same story, which is just like annoying family member that you're dealing with.
Yeah.
You know, but Cousin Eddie slides into a lot more of the vacation movies because he was kind of the third banana in that split, so to speak.
And Aykroyd is just so good at playing this like condescending asshole.
Yes, I honestly was thinking like this might be his best role ever.
More than Trading Places?
Best movie. I don't know about best movie, but this might be like, yeah, I like the Trading Places guy you ultimately have sympathy for, and it's a good performance. But this guy, I mean, I guess it's sort of in the end you come around.
Yeah, you come around on him here.
But yeah, I don't know. I think he's really killing it here. You raise a valid, counter argument with Trading Places, but I think there's a serious possibility that this is you could talk about this as his best performance ever because you hate the shit out of this guy.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do. It's like when he's in Christmas with the Cranks.
Yeah, sure. It's just like that.
You hate him in that movie too.
That. Sure. We don't have to have a 20-minute diatribe about that movie, but I hate that movie so much.
It reminds me of our parents, so I watch it sometimes at Christmas.
I hooked up one of my library subscription services to watch it last year at Christmas when I was visiting Mom and Dad because they didn't have the DVD and Mom was crushed and Dad was like, "We're not paying to rent a movie that we own. You'll just wait and watch it later." I was like, "Oh, it's streaming on Hoopla from the library. Let me hook up my laptop to the TV."
There you go.
It's like all the people in that town, I hate them so much.
Yeah.
I just hate them all so much.
Of course you do. That's the point.
But I also hate with the situation, first of all, that daughter meets and gets engaged to a man in a 2.5 week period, which is insane.
Yes.
And their response isn't like, "Hey, by the way, well, you weren't going to be here, so we're going on a cruise. Look, why don't you come on the cruise with us?"
Yeah. Although isn't it like I'm coming home tomorrow? Isn't it like a...
Yes. And which my response would be like, well, guess you're gonna make your own fucking Christmas dinner because I have a life too, you turd.
I mean, I cannot imagine our parents having that response in that situation, but we don't have to get into it.
That's the proper response to that situation. Anyway, I do not care for that movie. So we eat dinner and we're grilling dinner. And the thing I was wondering, so John Candy wants to cook like burgers and dogs, and Dan Aykroyd's like, "Oh no, lobster tails, $28 a pound," and they're like out there working on grilling the stuff up. What is that thing John Candy is holding? It looks like a mallet with a very long stick.
I think it's a like a salt and pepper. I think.
Oh, that would make sense.
Because that's a thing. Like the long-handled salt and pepper is a thing for grills, I think.
Yeah, I mean I've never seen one in person, but it does make sense if that was what it was.
Because I can't imagine you would need like a mallet for the grill.
No, I mean, no. I mean, frankly, the idea of not just putting salt and pepper on the food and then putting it on the grill is a little silly, but I get how that thing would exist. But so we eat dinner and we get maybe the best part of the movie, which is John Candy doing this. I guess this isn't a monologue.
Well, first we have to they have the boat argument.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
At dinner, and we're introduced to Aykroyd's twin daughters with the Twilight Zone theme song. Would you call it a theme song? Theme tune?
I think either is fine. I think theme tune is what the UK says for that.
A song just seems like a lot to call that a song because I think it's just like 4 measures of music.
Jingle?
A jingle. There we go. A theme jingle. And then Aykroyd at dinner is like, "I want to rent a speedboat," and Candy's like, "No, we're renting a pontoon boat." And then they argue about it, and of course the kids love all the flash of a speedboat because why wouldn't you?
Sure, yeah.
And like Annette Bening in this whole movie is just playing my favorite kind of character, which is slightly drunk wife of a rich man who always has a martini in her hand. Because it's just it's a fun. There's so much you could do. Like it's fun and silly and like always brings a smile.
She doesn't get a ton to do in this movie. This is a movie that definitely does not pass the Bechdel test.
No.
The only conversation these women have is about their husbands. But when she gets an opportunity to swing, she makes good contact up there.
Yeah.
So after dinner and all this, they're all like sitting around, and John Candy starts telling this story in front of the fire.
Turning off the lights. He's setting the scene.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's just a great, storytelling thing. But I guess you can't call this a monologue because other actors are involved with it, but it's basically a monologue.
It's essentially a monologue. There's a few interjections, but it's close enough to a monologue.
And really just a comedy monologue for the ages here. The lighting and staging is perfect. He's, pacing around the room. It's edited really well for reaction shots, cutting to the other actors who are listening to him.
He's such a
showman.
The
music is awesome. That's the perfect word for it. It's a showman, and a showman who knows what he's doing and is just like taking advantage of having this opportunity to stretch his legs a little bit. So he starts telling this story, which is about a bear encounter he had when he was here with his wife on their honeymoon, and that this huge bear was rattling their house and was like trying to get in, and he grabs a shotgun and shoots it and takes a bunch of hair off the top of the bear's head, leading to it becoming this legendary, the bald-headed killer bear of Clare County. And I need to pause here to tell a funny anecdote that I may have told in the podcast before, but this is Bart the Bear. He's a very famous bear actor.
He's like 10 or 11 in this movie.
Yeah, he ended up acting for quite a while. I think he died in 2000 and acted up until the late 90s.
He died more recently than you would think for a bear.
Yeah, he lived almost 30 and passed away of cancer. But so there's this movie called The Edge with Anthony Hopkins and Alec Baldwin. That's like Anthony Hopkins is an older
90s,
like
80s?
sort of adventure. Yeah, late 90s. It's like 97, 98. My wife and I both love like people surviving in the woods type stories, or like, Arctic survival, like that's catnip for both of us. And I was like, oh, I had never heard of this movie, but it was on HBO or something. And I was like, you want to check this out? And, we threw it on, and Hopkins is like a Jack London type writer, like wilderness survival stories, like Call of the Wild, Jack London.
Didn't he die?
And I mean, like Hopkins?
No, I thought didn't Call the Wild guy.
Jack London is dead. Yes.
Didn't he die doing the thing where he like went into the wilderness, or is that someone else?
I don't know. I don't know the answer. I'm not a big Jack London fan. I'm just.
Is he the one that like wrote up? So he was like, I'm going into the wilderness with no food and no stuff. Are you thinking of Into the Wild? That's what I'm thinking of.
Yes. No, Jack London was like the guy who ran the Iditarod and stuff.
Oh, cool.
He wrote like about the frozen wilderness and things like that. You're thinking of Christopher McCandless. So anyway, Anthony Hopkins like knows how to survive in the woods and like which berries are good and how to make a lean-to and how to like Hardy Boys type survival stuff. But they mishaps happen, yada yada yada. I don't need to recap the.
Is it a comedy?
You should. It was. No. It's like a cool adventure movie.
Okay.
It's like a thriller adventure movie. I don't know why I said cool. I mean, it is cool, but it's like an adventure movie. They get stuck in the wilderness and yada yada yada. A bear starts chasing them. They're like in the territory of this bear, and we're watching this movie, and I was like, I know this bear. And she's like, what are you talking about? I was like, I recognize the bear. And she's like,
no, you don't.
It's a bear. And I'm like, no, I recognize the bear. I swear to you. And I look it up, and sure enough, the bear has an IMDb page, and there it is, Bart the Bear, The Great Outdoors. And I was like, I truly said, I was like, I think it's the bear from The Great Outdoors without the bald spots. And she's like, that's like, it's a gibberish.
That means nothing
and
to
I
me.
look it up, and and sure enough, it's Bart the Bear. So I was like, man, this is a distinctive bear if I recognized him. I had the thing that happens to me when I watch anything, which is like, what do I know that person from? And then I have to stop and IMDb them. But this time it was a bear.
Although I guess you haven't seen that many movies with large bear. Like,
yeah, that's true.
It's like The Revenant, The Great Outdoors, this movie you just watched.
I've never actually seen The Revenant.
Oh, I assumed you had based on what you said about how you like survival movies.
So I just learned recently what The Revenant was about. I had sort of I'm kind of sick of Leo DiCaprio phase, and so I was just like, I don't give a shit.
That's the one was that the one he won with?
I think so. I don't care. Like it became such a topic of conversation around movies, and I was just like, it's fine if he never wins a gold statue. This is stupid and irrelevant. Can we move on?
Yeah.
Good actor. I like Leo. This is not anti-Leo. I just was like sick of the discourse. So anyway, we shoot the bear. Bart the Bear becomes bald. Note that for later because it will be useful information.
Yeah. So this is, I know we've talked about it before of like lines from things that aren't famous but have just like worked their way into our lexicon. And I can't remember what movie we were talking about before that was doing that, but when the way John Candy says "god awful roar" when he's like telling the story, he's like, "God awful roar." Yeah. I say that.
I've got like.
Anytime I'm like talking about like a loud noise or like a big something, I describe it in that way, in that voice. I'm like, this is for an audience of me, but
yes, yeah. Also from this movie, anytime I see a Zagnut, I say it like he does.
Oh, I do Beetlejuice.
Real hard. Oh, does Beetlejuice talk about Zagnut
for you?
Oh,
with the fly.
Zagnut must have been having a moment in 1988.
And now it's only like exclusively at Cracker Barrel. 88.
And the Christmas tree shop.
Yes.
It's like it's a good candy, but not one you can find around.
Butterfinger with coconut instead of chocolate.
Right.
Frankly, let me get a coconut Butterfinger.
Yeah, no, I think it would be a chocolate covered Zagnut would be a thing I would really enjoy. Maybe that needs to be. Maybe we need to slide that to our parents as part of their. Since they have, they dip the Buckeyes, dip the peanut butter in chocolate. It's like, well, you got that. Why don't you dip some Zagnuts?
Here, we'll cut some Zagnuts in half, and that way it's a more manageable bite.
Yeah.
I'm down for that. There's also a really great like classically mom and dad move where like the mom is engaging in the story and like, no, honey, it's real, and like putting her arm around her youngest son. And then at the end, he's like, well, that bear's probably dead now, right? And mom's like, oh, yeah, that's been so many years. That bear's long dead, like calms him down. And then Candy takes a beat and goes, well, she may be out there.
It's so perfect.
It's such a dad move.
But also, like, the way he hits the line is it's just exactly right.
And the music is really good in this sequence, too.
Yes. And this culminates with him... the line you just said, like, oh, well, she may be out there. And it leads up to and at this point, you don't even see when he picks it up. Like, you're so enthralled in the story, but he's got a whole snifter of brandy or something. And
or motor oil based on what happens.
Yeah,
is he drinking 151? Like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, it does. It could be 151. It's sort of a golden hued liquor in there, but he's like, so if you're up asleep tonight and you hear a noise, stay away from the windows because it might be a bear, and throws the booze in the fire, which like an actual fireball comes out.
Yeah, they like cut to the outside of the cabin and there's a fireball on top, like bursts out of the thing. And honestly, my mind is broken and only thinks in movies. And so like, as he's talking this, like, when you go to bed tonight, all I can hear is the dad in Gremlins doing the closing monologue of Gremlins. Where he's like, if something goes wrong, lock your doors, turn on all your lights, because you just might have a gremlin in your house. And
yeah.
And so all I can hear is that. And then when the fireball comes out the chimney, it reminds me of Hocus Pocus when the witches blow a hole in the friggin' cupola on the house.
Yeah. But this part is such a bummer to me because everyone is a turd. Like, everyone is furious at him and everyone leaves the room and the wife is mad. And I'm like, wife, you know this story. Like, this isn't the first time you've heard him do this. How are you mad about it?
I think
she's like part of the telling at this point.
I think the moms were just like, Annette Benning's daughters were objectively too young to hear this story. Like, this was not a story for them.
Yeah, maybe.
And then I think the youngest got scared and was like, I'm too old to be scared, so I'm sad now and I have to run away because I don't know what feelings are.
Yeah, I'm with you. This is very funny. It's very funny, and like, yeah, okay, you're fine. Maybe you're right about the kids, but like, they'll get over it. And also, like, it's a good bit. Respect the bits. This is a good bit.
Or it'll fester in the back of their minds, and one day when they're 30, they'll hear something similar to that, and it'll click in their head, and they'll be like, "Oh, right, that was a horrifying moment in my childhood." Much like me with that damn penguin.
Yeah, I guess. And this is more, so we hear John Candy upstairs telling his son that he, it's like a yarn that he was spinning. Like, there's some truth to it, but it's not.
So really, do you think because he says, my dad told me, and I'm telling you, do you think his dad actually told him?
I don't know. This part does not jive with the end of the movie because the bear is real and someone did shoot it and blow hair off the top of its head.
But also on top of that, when he sees the bear later, they cut to the young John Candy they use. So I'm like, did he see the bear?
Yeah. I don't know. I wonder if it was like the legendary bald bear was like a thing, and when he saw it, he like in his youth when he saw this bear, he saw the bald-headed bear. He just doesn't tell the story that way because it's not as interesting.
That he
like
made
he didn't shoot it. Right. Like maybe the reality is like he saw the bear, he didn't shoot the bear.
Yeah.
Because realistically, like if a bear is outside ruffling through your trash cans, like the best move for you to do is just leave it the hell
Do nothing.
alone.
Do absolutely nothing.
Yeah. Right. Observe, but don't do anything and stay inside the house.
Yeah, peep through your window. Pull your blinds apart a little bit.
So yeah, I don't know. The movie doesn't do a good job of explaining this. This is a movie that's very easy to poke holes in the logic of because it's a big, broad, dumb comedy.
Yeah.
But yeah, it doesn't make sense.
Oh, but a line from his wife, was it Pharisee last name?
Uh-huh.
A line from her being like, "Would you go tell him you made it? That your dad
Yes.
Get him to go to sleep."
Yes. Yeah. Exactly. Like you got to fix this. Which I like. It would be fine if the story was true, and to help the kid go to sleep, he lied and said it's not.
That's fine with me. I just want to know that.
Yeah.
But Aykroyd hears this and is like, "Well, I'm gonna play dad too." And so he opened.
Play dad is the perfect way to phrase it.
Yeah,
because he doesn't know what the hell he's doing. Yeah.
His kids are what, 7, maybe 8.
Yeah, it's hard to tell, but that feels about right.
Because I think the oldest son is probably like 17, 16.
Yes.
And then the younger son is 12, 13, we'll say. So they definitely feel like significantly younger than him.
I think you're probably right on all counts for that. That's about what they feel like in age.
And so he goes in their room and they're in bed, again, 7 or 8, and he goes, "Good evening."
Yeah.
Like he's a newscaster.
Exactly, yeah.
And he's like, "Hey," it starts out normal. He's like, "I know Uncle Chet's an authority figure, and it can be scary to hear him say that. It's a story he made up." And then it quickly derails. Like it like the train in Anastasia jumps off and explodes in green fire. Where he's like, "My dad," or his dad?
Uncle. I think it's an uncle who tells the story.
My uncle told me a story that scared me when I was a kid about a family in the woods who there was a military doing experiments, hellish, brutal experiments on these monsters that escape from their cages.
He's basically describing The Hills Have Eyes.
The plot, he's reading the wiki for The Hills Have Eyes, and he's like, slaughter them and ate them. And that messed me up for years, but don't you kids worry, that bear's not real. And then he leaves, and the girls just kind of like look at each other, like they don't move their heads, but they move their eyes to each other. And then the next time we see them in like 2 minutes, it is sunrise, and they have not moved.
It's a great editing joke where it's like we have the shot of the girls in the dark, and then we fade to the sun coming up, and they have not moved and are just staring still at the ceiling.
Yes.
We get the first of 3 or 4 maybe raccoon interludes here, where we just well, there's one to post credits.
Oh yeah, I forgot about post credits raccoon.
So they're like picking through the trash, and there's some funny dialogue jokes for the raccoons talking about, the people who live there and stuff.
Yeah, they love hot dogs.
This part I would be fine if it was not in it. Like it does set up a okay joke later, but
it's so short that I'm like, I'm fine with it. Like if it went on any longer, I'd be like, okay, we can wrap it up. But it's like a minute of raccoons talking and eating trash.
Yeah. So we cut to Dan Aykroyd on the phone trying to get a hold of someone. This is the start of like investments that we learn later is a scam, but the investment thing that's happening. And he's like trimming his nose hair, and he asks a great question to Annette Bening, who's in the shower, of, why do his kids look at him like he's Zeus and my kids look at me like I'm a side of beef?
I'm a rack of power tools at Sears.
Oh, that's what it is. And the girls are watching this and eating celery. And he's
unaware. He's unaware.
Yeah. And Annette Bening starts to answer. She's like, well, you work really long hours and we don't get enough time.
Spend a little more time at home, maybe.
And he literally yells, "Shut up, honey, I'm doing business here."
And then we find out the person he was calling was a priest. Yeah. He was trying to squeeze money out of a priest, which, like, hey, that's where it comes from.
Yeah, exactly. He's like, you don't scam us, we scam you.
Yeah, they're like, no.
So we go to rent the boat. We see the Suck My Wake, which every time I watch this, I'm like, this boat looks too small. Like when the adults are in it, they're wearing their knees for earmuffs.
It does feel a little bit like a bumper boat at a fair situation.
Yeah. And we get a classic bit here. So they're like looking at the boats, and Candy's really upset because he wanted to get a pontoon boat and just kind of like float around and, you know, have summer fun and not drive around like a maniac. Both are valid. And we get a classic fat guy thing here where he and the older son go to this hot dog stand.
I love this.
Let me get 4 chili dogs and 2 plain dogs, which is a classic. And the kid's like, that's 6 hot dogs, Dad. And we get the classic fat guy. It's for everybody.
Plus, I'm hungry.
Yeah. It's like, yeah, John Candy, come on. We know 3 of them dogs are yours.
Yeah.
You do the 2 chili, 1 plain. And you're like, well, I saved some calories. I only had the 1 was plain.
Yeah, exactly.
And the most famous sequence of this movie is this water skiing business.
Goldberg roller skating down a hill sequence.
Yes. And I will say, people are going to be out there, I know, thinking like, you know, Tripp, one of the things you said you hate the most in movies is if someone goes, whoa. And this 100% is a whoa sequence. It is, no doubt about it.
It just feels a little more earned, and I don't know why.
It's also one of the best physical comedians to ever doing it. So it gives it a lot more weight. There are some people who can pull off a whoa. It's a very short list.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I'm trying to think who else I would put on that list.
Chris Farley could do this kind of bit.
Yeah.
I think Melissa McCarthy can do this kind of bit.
I was going to say, I was like, early Melissa McCarthy.
Too often Melissa McCarthy only got to do this kind of bit, which is a waste because like the key is the performer gets to do both.
A lot of things.
Like John Candy gets a lot of shade here. And then like, I like Melissa McCarthy and she's never gotten a role this juicy where she gets to be featured and do like her whole thing.
Maybe Spy. Which is again, a movie that I always forget.
Right.
Like that should not have been as good as it was.
Yeah, no, you're right. That probably is as good of a showcase for her as this is for him. You're correct. But it's just like, this is a showcase comedy for John Candy. And it's like, you have Dan Aykroyd, who's also very funny, but playing the straight character more or less. And like, is a great yes-ander of everything Candy. Like he builds the bits so that Candy can knock them down, so to speak.
Yeah.
So yes, I'm a hypocrite. There's like 3 whoa scenes in movie history that I have liked and watched and liked.
For humans, Muppets get a pass for woes.
Muppet woe is fine. They're puppets and for children.
Muppet woes don't count. Human woes.
Yes. Although I keep seeing them like shoehorning the Muppets into stuff, and it just
like
bums me out because I was on Hulu and there's like a mini golf show that is one of those secret television shows that's run for like 6 years.
Is it Holy Moly?
Yes, there's like 6 seasons of that.
It's not. I think Holy Moly is like Wipeout meets disc golf.
Yeah, no, it's not disc golf. It's putt-putt.
It's putt-putt?
Uh-huh.
Oh.
But you are correct that it's Wipeout.
I just assumed it was disc golf, which is more physically active.
But they were like, oh, we're having, no, you like putt and then you have to like run to where your ball is and it's an obstacle course.
Okay.
It seems like something I would enjoy, and I've watched it. When it first aired, I was like, oh, the putt-putt, that'll be fun. And then I was like, no, I don't like this. And then I saw it was like, the Muppets are on Holy Moly. And I was like, all right, well, let me see what this is. And I was like,
Were they
kept
hosting?
skipping ahead to the Muppet parts. They were like featured guests more than they were hosting. Like they're there, but like Rob Higgle or whatever his name is was still like the host.
Higgle?
Riggle. I get him and Rob Hubel confused, but Rob Riggle. But like all the Muppet voices are wrong now.
Yeah, Kermit's wrong. Miss Piggy's close.
Now. It's I don't know.
She's the closest I've found.
That Muppet
Haunted
Mansion thing I thought was pretty good, but I later figured out, like I saw somebody talking about like, well, the reason Gonzo is the star is because Gonzo's the only real Muppet left, or original Muppet, not real. I don't want to be shitty, but yeah, I couldn't. Yeah,
that makes sense.
Like that's why he got promoted, because he's the last of the OGs. But anyway, they're on like, there was an ad for Dancing with the Stars that I saw also on Hulu, and it was like the Muppet, or maybe it's not Dancing with Stars. I don't know.
That sounds right.
They're on some show like that, yeah, or The Masked Singer, something like that.
Kermit competed on The Masked Singer.
That's what it was then. It was an ad during the baseball game, and it was just like, oh, the Muppets, and I'm just like, he comes out and he's like, hi, I'm Kermit. I'm like, nope, that ain't
You're not
it.
Kermit.
It's not it. Nope.
Yeah, I think Piggy does sound. She doesn't sound the same, but she sounds pretty close. Because she popped into Drag Race recently.
Oh, okay. That feels right.
Yeah, because So it used to be like during Drag Race in the before times, like people would come into the workroom. They'd be like, I'm, what is her name? I don't know. I'm Gwyneth Paltrow or whatever. I can't think of a name. And like she and RuPaul would walk around and talk to the queens and be more individual about it. But once COVID happened, they were like, "Hey, what celebrities feel like zooming into the workroom?" And so like they got Scarlett Johansson to do it, and clearly it is not recorded at the time of filming, and so they're just like,
sure.
They're like, "Here's you're gonna react as though she said something great. You're gonna ask a question that we're gonna feed her later, and you're gonna nod your head as though she's answering you." And cool. But they had Miss Piggy do that once, and she was like she was like, "I'm so excited to be guest judging," and RuPaul was like, "Oh no, Piggy, I'm sorry, you're not guest judging. You're just here to talk to the queens." And she was like, "Oh," and she clearly thought she turned her camera off and was like, "This is some nonsense. I should have been on the panel."
They did that exact same joke setup on that Muppet Disney Plus show, actually.
Oh, really?
Like Piggy thought she had a bigger role and then got mad about it and thought her thing was off. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a good bit. It's fun to repeat it.
Yeah.
It's a good bit.
It's like in 30 Rock when Jenna thinks she's auditioning for the daughter in Gossip Girl.
Yes.
And she's the mother.
Yes. So anyway, Candy gets, this dragged all over the lake, and he's, really upset about it with his wife in the room.
Which, to be fair,
she's kind of
in Dan Aykroyd's defense, when you are the person being pulled, your responsibility is to let go when things are too hard.
Yes. And it's
because you can't communicate.
But also this scene starts with John Candy telling his son, "Hey, there's trouble. What do you do if there's trouble? Let go of the rope.
And
Let
go loose when you fall. Go loose."
Yeah. Neither of which he does. So it's like, listen to your own advice, obviously. People panic. That's what happens.
So he's packing to leave, and his wife, it's great. She walks in, she goes, "What happened to make you want to leave?" And I was like, even I know. Like, even I get what happened.
Yeah, come on, Stephanie Pharisee. What are you thinking here?
So she's trying to make him stay, and he's like, she said, "What about the kids?" And he goes, his kids are spooky. I keep waiting for their heads to spin around and for them to vomit pea soup. And she was like, "I'm talking about our kids." And he goes, "They already do that."
Yeah.
And then
really
she
good.
Convinces him to stay. And this is my moment of I love their chemistry, because she's like, "Come on, stay. Everything will be fine. You'll have a good time for the rest of the week or whatever." And he's like, "You're right. And he pauses. And then he pretends to grab her around the throat and pushes her on the bed. And he's like, why would you make me stay? I was so close to leaving."
It is really, really good. Because it's like that gesture only seems playful if that is perfect.
Yes.
Yeah.
And she's she is clearly in on the joke and having fun with it.
Yeah. She's not quite, but to the point of crossing her eyes and sticking her tongue out.
Yeah. She's almost there.
Yeah. Because otherwise you're making the Babadook.
Oh, yes. Babadook, Duke.
Yeah, not good.
Gay icon. Accidental gay icon, the Babadook.
Still doesn't make any... I just rewatched that last night, and I was thinking about that every time.
Wait, you know why, though, right?
Because it was the internet, and the internet is weird.
No, so what happened was something happened, I think, on Netflix or Hulu, and they were, streaming the Babadook, and they accidentally put it under LGBTQ movies. And everyone was like...
And then the internet ran.
Everyone was like, wait, what? And so now the Babadook is a gay icon, accidentally.
Okay.
Also, she says Roman's making goat cheese pizza. We're going to take it up to the cabin. And I forgot goat cheese was a weird thing in 1980, whatever. And
yes, I will say, I would probably enjoy a pizza with goat cheese on it. Mm-hmm. But if I'm in the mood for pizza, I don't want goat cheese and caramelized figs. You know what I mean?
That's fair. I would rather I'm more I think it's a goat cheese. I think it's a Trader Joe's flatbread pizza. It's truffle, caramelized onions, and goat cheese, and it is so good.
Sounds delicious. No, sounds delicious. I'm just saying, when I'm in the mood for pizza, I want it to be pizza. You know what fair. I mean? It's got to be pizza.
My boyfriend's the same way. Every time I'm like, let's go order from our pizza place. Because they have pickle pizza, and they have breakfast. They have really interesting pizzas, and I always want those. Yeah. He's like, well, I also just want a plain cheese. And I'm like, there's no room in our fridge.
I want more.
He wants the exciting pizza, but he also always wants.
I see.
And I'm like,
I'm
just get a slice. Order a slice.
Yeah, you should order a slice in that situation. That would solve your problem. What you do is you pick up the pizza and you get a slice while you wait. That is the real pro move.
We always end up
while I'm waiting, can I get a slice of that? You don't have to heat it up. I'll just take it off the counter.
We always end up getting something out of their dessert case because we forget it's there, and then we go and they're like, oh, and they're not bad desserts.
Okay.
So we're like, oh, great. I can throw on a slice of chocolate cake.
Sure. So we're going to a 109-year-old's birthday party, which is just a ridiculous sentence to begin with.
It is.
Man they do not know, but just a guy who is old. They're like, oh, I'd like to pay my respects.
It feels very Parks and Rec of like,
yes.
The town is celebrating this man for turning 109.
Yeah. Although I feel like in our hometown, which is bigger than Parks and Rec, the Pawnee, like if someone was turning 109, I feel like they might get this like a public birthday party.
But where do you think it would be?
Like in a park, probably.
I can see that. Or the firehouse.
Yeah.
Or fire hall, not house.
And it's like, they would get like some sort of honorary certificate or reward or something like that. The oldest citizen of Downingtown or whatever it was.
Yeah.
But he died in the car on the way over, which we find out as Candy is taking a snapshot of the little girls kissing him on the cheek and all the kids freak out. But I do love the movie effect of like we're looking through the viewfinder and then it like
tilts.
When he gets the news, it tilts hard. And it's like he died on the way over and the kids are like, whoa, like freaking out. And it's like a snapshot of that.
Well, it's also funny because John Candy's like, okay, kids crowd around, we'll take a picture. And then the character actor we talked about earlier comes over and is like, I don't like those kids climbing all over him. He's not a jungle gym. And I'm like, they're not. Our grandfather did that to me once. I was like sitting in a chair sideways with my legs over the side, and he got very upset that I was climbing all over his chair. And I was like, I'm sitting.
Yeah.
I just sit sideways.
Yeah. Robert Prosky, by the way. Also, I have this written down here I guess I had looked it up at this point, but the director of this is Howard Deutsch, who is married to Leah Thompson since the 80s. And both their daughters act, although the one, Zoe Deutsch, has been in stuff that you may or may not have seen.
I did not know Leah Thompson was Zoe Deutsch's mom.
I didn't either. I found that out today.
I love her in Zombieland too.
Yes, that's the one, the big one. But then the other thing I saw, which I think is truly crazy and definitely not happening, almost exactly 1 year ago, it was November of 21, Dan Aykroyd said he and Howard Deutsch have been like really working on a sequel to this.
Yeah.
And they were like, it'll be something about a Ponzi scheme or something with Roman. And then they were, trying to look for someone to be the John Candy part. And I was like, you can't.
There isn't one.
Yeah, sorry. Like, he's dead and he should be dead in the movie. And you can make a movie about Roman and make it a soft sequel to this, I guess. But that's ridiculous.
If you're going to do that,
recast
you got to drag Moranis out of retirement. That's the only way I'll accept it. He has nothing to do with this movie, but I feel like that's the only way that I'll be like, okay, fine.
Yeah.
And apparently, Ryan Reynolds' production company is working on a John Candy documentary.
Yes, which I think will probably be pretty good because he posted a clip of something on, I think it was Candy's 70th birthday 2 years ago. His production company posted a really great 4-minute tribute clip reel. It's like just
the highlights.
It just highlights edited together really well. So yeah, John Candy, a Canadian treasure.
Well, he said apparently it's in with Colin Hanks, and I was like, that just seems like I would not have picked Colin Hanks as like.
I have not actually seen it, but Colin Hanks made a documentary about Tower Records that people really, really liked.
Oh.
Got a lot of positive attention.
That could be why. Because I thought he meant like he was going to be like the host of the documentary, and I was like, Tom Hanks did one movie with John Candy. Or two?
Yeah.
He did
maybe two.
It was Volunteers and Splash.
Yeah, two. Yeah.
I was like, that doesn't seem like the criteria for like you should host the documentary about this man's life.
Yeah, he's probably just producing it or directing it or something like that.
Yeah.
But this is leads to the bear dump, which I guess this was actually a thing back in the day. Like not yet.
Open
dumps that would attract bears.
First, we have the meet cute.
Oh, sorry.
The pool cue meet cute.
Oh, you're right. Yes. The first meet cute in history that involves minor sexual assault.
Inadvertent?
It's accidental.
I was like, what's the manslaughter version of sexual assault?
Yeah.
This actress is no longer an actress. She is now a lawyer in, I think, Arizona or Colorado or one of those kind of states.
Oh.
I think I read on Wikipedia that her specialty, or I don't know what you call it when you're a lawyer, is like either
specialty
environmental stuff or like power stuff.
Oh.
And I'm like, I don't know which side you're you're on this, and I don't want to look it up, but good for you, lady-in-law.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Also, why do they leave the old man on display?
It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense because it's funny for a movie.
It's funny. It's funny for a movie, but I was like,
yeah, it's insane. It's truly insane.
It would have been funnier if they were like, we'll put a sheet over him, and then the sheet fell off his head, so they thought he was an old man who was cold, like all old men are.
Yes. Yeah.
That would have been. I feel like that would have been a funnier version of the bit, because rather than like, well, we just left him out in the middle of the open. We'll deal with him later.
No, this is beyond ludicrous that this is real, but it's a movie. It's silly. I do feel like this movie on this watch, it really dawned on me, like, there's a thing with action movies that the rule used to be you had to have an action beat every 10 pages. And this movie feels like, all right, we have like 7 really funny ideas that could be like loosely tied to a family vacation movie, and we just kind of string them together.
Yeah.
There's like, the dead guy at the birthday party. We're about to do the bear dump scene, the big finale with the bear, the
go-karts,
the water skiing, the go-karts. It's like we have these beats, and it's just like we're just progressing through the chapters of the beats. This next one is, he asks Robert Prosky, he's like, what's the bear dump situation? And I learned on this watch, because I was looking it up, like, this was a thing. Towns had open dumps and bears would go eat at them. And then they realized, like, oh, this is bad for both people and bears.
Yeah, this is not good for anybody
doing this. Yeah. But this is where John Candy entices the bears to come closer and have a nice tasty Zagnut and bangs it onto this car. And then the bears are riding the car as they drive home.
Because he doesn't throw, he should have thrown the Zagnut.
Yes, 100%.
So
he leaves it on the hood of the car.
A bear on the hood of the car and a bear on the roof.
Yeah.
And he and his youngest, who I always, like, at first glance think is, what's his name from Wonder Years?
Yes, he does look a lot like, what's his name? Savage.
Yeah, Fred Savage. He's like, did I tell you I love you lately?
Yes.
We should probably leave. We should probably get out of here right now.
I was good. And then the kid has a really good performance. He's like, yeah, I'm tired. Does this
reminded me of friggin' Christmas Vacation, when he's like looking at the lights. He's like, let's look at the time. I got taxes to do, homework.
Yeah. But this is the one moment this kid gets to shine, and he's pretty good here.
Yeah, he does well. So they drive away with a bear on the car, and the kid's like, what's the law about driving with a bear in your car? And he goes, I don't know in this state.
Yeah.
Cammy, the girl that Buck, the older son, just met, and him are chatting in a gazebo, and he's like, oh, I met my first local, and she goes, you don't know how local I am. And I was like, I'm gonna need you to elaborate on what the hell that means, ma'am.
Yeah, it's very odd,
because it sounds like I'm a badass aloof person, and then you think about it for 2 seconds more, and you're like, well, wait a minute.
Yeah, very strange.
And then we get a really nice, because the movie really does balance well the like wackadoo slapstick with the like little heart moments.
Absolutely, yeah.
Because John Candy and his older son Buck are like just standing outside, and he's like, "Hey, let's go out in the rowboat. I'll let you row." And the kid's trying to fight it, and he's like, "Come on, we're like, why not? It's the middle of nowhere. Where it's night. Come on." And they have this sweet little moment in the rowboat of like, I have these great memories with my dad. I want to pass them to you, so you'll bring your kids here. I want to give you my ring.
Right. Yeah, the ring thing is weird because they don't make it obvious enough that it's like a signet ring and not his wedding ring.
I mean, I assumed it wasn't his wedding ring because he said my dad gave it to me.
Yes, I know, but like people pass down wedding rings as like heirlooms and stuff, but it just
do they do that? I feel like men's rings are not often passed down like that.
No, but I'm sure there are people out there who do,
Yeah.
Anyway, it's like the ring thing comes up and it's kind of a sweet moment, and it never comes up again. And it's just like, oh, I wish they had made more of a deal about John Candy wearing this other ring.
Yeah, I agree. Then we get,
by the way, we find out that Connie works out at the A&W, which is
Cammy.
Delightful. Yes, sorry, Cammy works at an A&W, and I was like, it made me want a root beer so bad.
Well, it's funny.
The only thing I want right now is a root beer.
Apparently, that's not a real A&W. It's just like it was just like a drive-up spot that they turned into one, and I was like,
yeah,
but like, why did you need to go through that trouble?
Maybe A&W paid for it.
I don't know. That seems weird. So we get Raccoons 2.0, and they put rocks on top of the trash cans, and the raccoons say, well, we'll just knock them over. And I have to say, as someone who has a bit of a raccoon problem and had to buy a cinder block, they don't knock the trash can over.
Oh, okay. Well, that's good.
Yeah.
Better a raccoon problem than a rat problem.
Yeah, I mean, who knows what's back there, but there's definitely raccoons. I've seen them. And then we get this little, like, truly has no bearing on the plot moment where they're golfing and go-karting at the same time.
Yeah. They go to, like, an adventure park, clearly, because they also ride horses right after, and it seems like all part of the same thing.
It feels kind of like the sledding sequence in Christmas Vacation, where it's like, I guess technically we're talking about his job, but still, like, we're not really doing anything much for the plot.
Yeah, it's like just a gag excuse.
Yeah. So John Candy gets hit in the head with a golf ball that Dan Aykroyd hit, of course. And then they're riding horses, and John Candy got the temperamental horse. Yeah.
And it ends up, like, walking a very long distance back to wherever they're going.
Mm-hmm.
And then this is where we end up at the bar with the lightning guy, right?
Yes. Dan Aykroyd's drunk and holding court for the bartender and John Candy.
Yes. And we get this lightning guy introduced, and it's truly the strangest thing in this movie, because it has, like, they bring him in to do this joke about this guy has a hard stutter because he's been hit in the head with lightning 67 times.
66.
And has 66, excuse me, and has, like, a skunk hairdo because of it. And then later we see this man get struck for a 67th time, but he doesn't, like, get involved with the plot more than that. It's truly just like, oh, wouldn't it be funny to have an actor get hit in the head by lightning?
I wonder if, like, John Hughes there was, like, some local legend of the man who got hit by lightning 66 times or whatever.
This feels like a director's cousin who was just, like, desperate to be in a movie, and they're like,
you can just say Ted Raimi.
You can have because Ted Raimi got jobs on his own.
Yeah, I was being facetious.
This guy is not the kind of person who seems like he's getting jobs on his own. Although maybe this man has a long career, I don't know. But this is like he's
the kind of person who would guest star on everything.
Yeah. Like he should. It's shocking that he wasn't on 2-episode Seinfeld as, like, Kramer's weird friend
or Murder, She Wrote.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, maybe he was. I don't watch that show.
So, yeah.
Like, he wasn't a Golden Girl fiance for a minute.
Or a kooky neighbor.
Yeah.
But his name is Reg.
Yes. And then the ladies are sitting at a table with the kids, also drinking and, like, having
and smoking.
A chat. And smoking away, as you do. It's the 80s. And there's a nice funny thing here where, like, Connie and her sister are sort of gabbing, and Annette Bening, I can't remember her character's name, Kate is like, oh, Roman and I haven't had sex in months. All I do is lean against the dryer or the washing machine. And you can see Connie being like, well, we're poor, but at least we got that.
But also it's a glimmer of, because she asks, but you can tell her face is curious. Does that work?
Yes.
And it's like, clearly she's like, well, hang on.
Yeah, sure. I love cheap thrills. And
then Annette Bening gets the great button on the scene of, have you seen Whiter Whites?
Yeah. Although I will say, it does start with it's so lonely being wealthy, and I'm just like, your problems are fake, and so are you, and your watch.
Well, she doesn't know that.
Well, I did. So we get a little romance with the townie, and then
it's like this plot.
I do not
Buckley
care.
And Cammy in the boat.
Yeah, I was like, I just don't care about this, and also it's like, it's inconsequential. Like, it's
a vacation
it's just supposed
ship.
to be.
It is. You're here for a week.
Yeah, it's a summer fling. Yeah. And she's like, I don't get involved with people who are here on vacation, which is
valid.
One, smart, and two, like, she doesn't really get involved with this kid either. Like, I guess they kiss once or twice.
Well, at the end, she speaks very much as if they, like, love each other, and I'm like,
yes,
what's happening?
You guys have been here for 6 days. Get out of here.
And he didn't meet you on the first day.
Right. So this is the other big sequence where wake up in the middle of the night. Oh God, there's a bat. And it's very funny to me that no one is like, oh, Connie, if the bat touched you, you should probably get a rabies shot.
Yeah.
Cause I was remembering you telling a story of, like, a friend had a bat get in their house and, like, they had to deal with it. And our mom being like, well, they should walk out on rabies shots. And you were like, no, they didn't have to. And she's like, no, you always should. And I was like, this wasn't like a sleep time. My interpretation of what he's saying is, like, they watched a bat come in and saw where it was, like, it was never near anybody. But if I was asleep and a bat touched me, I'm like, get me to the goddamn doctor.
Well, But this does bring up our another quote that I say that no one knows, which is, I'm not wimping, I'm thinking.
Yes, yeah. Great line and reading. So they get all geared up. They got, armor created out of clearly like a shed. It's very good prop costume work here.
Yeah. Also, if a bat is in your house, just open all the windows and doors.
Yes.
And it will fly out.
It's like the solution to this is just open the door and wait.
Shut all the doors to bedrooms.
Yes.
And open the front door and windows. That's what you have to do.
And take Kate to go get a rabies shot.
Yes.
And probably Roman.
Also, there's a Leinenkugel sign in their house.
Yes.
And I only ever think of them as shandies because I don't know if they make real beer anymore.
I believe they make other beer, yes, but they've been around a long time. They're a Wisconsin brewery, so it's just like good set deck.
Yeah, but I always, because they make like 15 different shandies, even for the winter months.
Yes.
So I was like, oh, right.
Yeah.
I guess it made sense that they weren't just a shandy company.
I hate that beer.
I like some of them.
The summer shandy is like weirdly sweet to me. I just
it's lemonade.
It. I like if you take a country time lemonade and a Miller Lite, I like it more than the summer shandy. Which I'm not saying I'm like Mr. Fancy Pants. I need a good beer. I just don't like that beer.
I think they have like a cranberry one in winter that I like.
Okay, but the bat lands on Candy's face and gets smashed in the face with the tennis racket, which is pretty good. And then he like finishes the bat off with the fly swatter, which looks cool, like looks funny, but I always
doesn't make any sense. Huh?
Yeah. Leading to going out to dinner the next day, and the very famous in our house old 96er, which I feel like gets name dropped almost anytime there's a steak.
Yep.
Anytime
way. There's a steak larger than I don't know,
or even like a big pack of ground beef, maybe like if the hamburgers were being made.
Any meat product that looks bigger than a hamburger patty, basically.
The sometimes the Thanksgiving turkey.
Mm-hmm.
And he gets this enormous, cartoonishly large 96-ounce steak and has to eat the whole thing. And if you do, your whole table's meal is free, which feels like really a losing enterprise if it was done now.
I don't know. I can't imagine many people are eating that steak.
Oh, dude, the way competitive eater people travel around, it would be like there's probably 10 or 12 people in the country who could polish that off no problems.
Yeah, but I think doing it 10 times over the course of the restaurant's career
maybe, but if you vacation there, you just do it once a summer.
Yeah, I imagine they would pull a your football team situation and be like, look, you get it once. You don't get to come back every year and do it again.
No, what happened there was we ruined wing night for everyone.
That's what I'm saying. They would have quickly done that if they hadn't they should have put their foot down.
Actually, I checked that. What they did was just say you can't get the wing special if you don't order alcohol, which is fine. Like that's a fair.
Yeah, that's fair.
We didn't ruin it for everybody.
How much was it? Was it 10 cents?
They were 10 cents a piece, and we went in with the offensive line plus a few. It was like a bunch of linemen. So probably, I think it was. My memory is it was 7 people, and we went in. And we're like, we'd like 350 chicken wings, please. They brought us pizza trays of wings, and we would just demolish them. Just demolish them. One of the times there, somebody ate 100. I ate more than 50 on one occasion.
Wow.
We would come right from football practice.
I mean, yeah, I get it.
So it's like I was 17 years old. I was the strongest, like most muscular I'd ever been in my whole life, would ever be in my whole life. I was just off a very strenuous athletic activity, and I could eat like a house on normal occasions. I back then I used to come home from practice and eat like a full meal, take a shower, and then eat dinner with the family, a full meal, and then probably have a bowl of ice cream an hour later.
Yeah,
I was a monster.
That's crazy. I mean, that's what bodies do.
Yeah. But yeah, one kid, I wasn't there at the time it happened, but one kid ate 100 once.
That's insane.
Yeah. I mean, they weren't particularly huge chicken wings.
No, but still.
I mean, it's just preposterous. Yeah.
Also, we didn't mention that, because we don't really care, that Buckley told Cammie he would meet her at 9.
Yes. Yeah.
And so, like, literally the second John Candy cuts his first piece of steak, they cut to Cammie waiting. And I was like, well, hang on.
Yeah. This was poorly planned.
Why are we eating? Also, like, why are we eating at 9 o'clock? You're going to eat a 96-ounce steak at 9 p.m.?
Well, the steak probably takes like a good while to cook.
Yeah, I guess.
Even if it's,
Although, wouldn't you do the char and then oven it?
Yeah. So, yeah. I mean, yeah, probably.
I mean, I'm thinking like restaurant. That makes the most sense.
Yeah. And this particular cut of steak is one that is probably not best suited to this type of cooking, but yes, it is how it looks like they do.
It's just so silly. I was like, we should have forgotten about her until he was like halfway through the steak and then cut to her, because then it's funny that it's taking him so long to finish.
Yes, for sure. I also love that the cook is wearing a bloody butcher apron. Like what is the scenario?
Like he's working Halloween Horror Nights?
Yes, yeah. And so he, eats the steak except for the gristle and fat, and then John Candy really kills this scene. Also, I noticed, I've noticed this before, but today it kind of dawned on me. He's taking actor bites, like he's taking extremely small bites of the steak because he has to keep doing it all day, presumably. And it's just funny to watch him like take this piece of steak that's the size of most people's cutting board, and he's cutting like a half-inch by half-inch piece off of it.
I wonder if maybe they like gave him the full steak and then like a pile of small slices, like. They had like
maybe
that way he wouldn't have to actually like cut anything, and then for continuity purposes he's just like picking up little pieces.
That would make the most sense, I would guess.
So he finally eats what they think is the last bite, and then the chef's like, "That ain't the last bite." And Dan Aykroyd goes, "There's nothing on that plate but gristle and fat," and they cut to it, and it's like a good-looking piece of fat. I might have like a little nibble of it, but I'm not eating that whole thing. And then we cut to. Yeah. Stephanie Ferrisy. Stephanie Ferrisy. It's a close up on her face, and she goes, "Oh God."
Yeah, because it looks like he even scooped the marrow out of this bone.
Yeah, right.
Like he's really gone to town on this thing.
And Aykroyd goes, "Tell you what, if I can get a dessert down, I'm throwing a couple of Paul Bunyan hats for the kids."
Yeah.
And so they all get home. Oh, as they're leaving, we cut to Cammy leaving. And then we cut to the raccoons breaking into the house to get the trash.
Yes.
So they come home. John Candy's clearly like forgotten about the ordeal, like processed. And then Dan Aykroyd goes, "Look at the size of the maggots on that meat." And he runs to the bathroom. And then everyone runs after him for some reason, which like you all know what he's doing. Like I think.
Yeah. But it is very silly.
But Dan Aykroyd doesn't leave frame far enough. And so it was his job to like silently count to 3.
Yes.
So that John Candy could then make vomit sounds and everyone could run away. But because he didn't go far enough, you just see Dan Aykroyd staring everyone in the face going, 1, 2, 3, with his fingers.
Yeah. Yes. It's really, really funny that he gives that cue. Like, why he's giving the cue and not the director off screen is weird. Like, it's all.
I mean, it makes sense when you're the group of actors because they're all like behind the staircase and everything.
Right. But you could have this director just go, hold, now.
Yeah, but then you have to take it out.
I mean, I guess it's not that hard.
Yeah, but or you can skip that word. Like,
yeah, I guess.
If you tell the guys in post, "Hey, get it in post." You tell them.
That's what room tone is for, baby. You just replace. I do it all the time on this podcast.
Then we cut to the next morning, and they're all the boys are waking up early to go fishing at like before the sun is up.
Mm-hmm.
And they use leeches as bait. Are leeches like a fishing hack?
I don't know if it's a hack, but certainly people use leeches as bait. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Very occasionally when you're on a road trip in the South, you'll stop at a gas station that has live bait, and often it like has a list of what's in there. And I've seen leeches included along like with worms and stuff.
Also, it's a weird, I'm sure they did it because they couldn't actually get good footage like this, but it's so weird that it's like a wide shot of the lake and the boat is like small in the corner, and we just hear like all the ADR dialogue. It's such a bizarre choice.
It is really, really weird. I do wonder if it was just like like you said, they just didn't get good footage on the lake, and so they were working around it.
Yeah. So they wake up covered in leeches, and it's raining, and Buck's trying to call Cammy, and she's not answering. She won't talk to him at the A&W, and I'm like, who cares?
Yeah. It's like at the point where we're focusing on the Cammy and Buck thing, I'm like, I realize you wanted to give this kid something to do, but there are like an infinite number. Like, it honestly would have been more interesting if he had a girlfriend back home who was like threatening to break up with him over this week or something like that.
You mean European Vacation?
Yeah, honestly, it would have been better.
Or just like, don't give me drama. Like, do the Wham 105 boyfriend from summer rental.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
No drama.
Yeah.
Just I found a boyfriend. I'm not seeing. I don't hang out with my family. Like something like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we get what feels like a very realistic breaking point for this family.
Yeah.
Even though.
And it's the rainy day on the vacation too, which like makes everybody on edge.
Yeah. I feel like the fishing scene should have been earlier because it feels like they're all. That feels like a fun moment for everybody.
Yes.
Obviously, leeches being covered leeches isn't fun, but like it feels camaraderie. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that this scene coming right after, I'm like, well, okay.
Like him inviting Roman to be part of the like bonding thing he's doing with his sons is like a nice gesture.
Yeah.
You know?
So yeah, it's the rainy day on vacation. Everyone's kind of like a little terse, almost punchy. Mm-hmm. We'll see. They'll get there in a second. And they just start snapping at each other.
Yeah. And it's like, we're fighting over the fire, but really it's just like, I'm so sick of you being here on my vacation.
Yeah. And then at one point they say something and, you got some nerve. And Aykroyd goes, I am the one with the Mercedes. And John Candy goes, is it paid for? And I was like, well, hang on. It's a big reveal later.
Yeah. Yeah.
Why do you know that? Why are you implying that?
Yeah. I think he's just needling him about it in general, you know? Or like, you know, is it leased or whatever kind of thing.
And then he's like, I'll send you back home with a dent in your forehead. And Annette Bening steps in to be like, don't talk to him that way. And he's like, you want one to match? And then then Buck steps in between them to be like, stop fighting. And when Aykroyd tries to say something like, your kid's got the right idea, he goes, blow it out your ass, Uncle Rome. No.
Yeah.
Bite the big one, Uncle Roman, which means nothing, but also just feels mean.
Yeah, yeah. Also, blow it out your ass is a very good, tell somebody off.
We get that one in a minute, but yeah, I do love that one too. But bite the big one, Uncle Roman, I'm always like, it really means absolutely nothing.
It's like a pretty kiddie insult. He doesn't swear. He doesn't, it's,
It doesn't even imply anything. Like, big one what?
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. So this leads to Aykroyd's big moment of like,
go find yourself a spin cycle.
Yeah, yeah. So they like pack up and leave, and as they're storming out, Aykroyd's like, I was gonna let you in on this investment. And
there's one more moment at the end when the youngest son is saying like, are we not gonna get Christmas presents from Dan Aykroyd this year and Annette Bening?
Yeah.
And then they're all of a sudden everyone starts saying blow it out your ass, and the mom's like, hey, no more blowing anything out of anyone's ass.
No one is blowing anything out of their ass.
And then John Candy goes, I would like to blow Dan Aykroyd out of my ass. And then the son goes, you might as well blow the whole family out of your ass while you're at it, Dad. And then
it is one of those things where it's like we've all been in the situation where you're sitting around with a group of people, whether it's a family or a friend or whatever, and it's like something just catches fire and then everybody's in on it immediately. And this is what it feels like. It's like it feels so natural that like one of them said this funny insult and then they're all just nailing it.
And then it ends with they say, do you understand what's going on? And he goes, Uncle Roman and Aunt Kate are incredible buttheads. And they go, exactly.
Yeah. So they like Aunt Kate and Uncle Roman and the kids go off to pack because they're going to storm out and leave. And Roman is like, "Oh, I was going to cut you in on this big investment, and I'm not,
He says it is somehow insider but not illegal, which I don't think it can be. I think by definition, insider
unless
trading.
Unless you're in Congress, then that stuff's all fine. But he lays on this
or that commercial I shot 3 years ago for that thing that is
yes
the closest you can get to insider trading while still maintaining plausible deniability.
Yeah. But he's like laying on this thick story about this horrible thing he said at his wedding about him. And like, I heard you in the bathroom. I was in the stall. You were talking to your brother.
No, he was talking to their father. That It's weird because he says specifically we're talking to Connie and Kate's dad. And then later he says that story with you and your brother. And I was like, hang on. There was a revision.
Yeah. Okay. You're
but
right.
like knowing that spoiler alert, it is a made up story. It is like sociopath move.
Yes.
To make up this specific story and use it to get this money that you know is fake.
Yeah, I know they all like come together in the end, but it's crazy to me that like I would hold a grudge about this forever because it's lunatic behavior.
Yeah, I would like, look, I won't hate you, but I will never forget that you did this.
Yeah. Like I'll sit at Thanksgiving with this person. And that is about the extent of it.
Yeah, and then it's so funny. So basically he says, I came here to give you this investment opportunity. Now we're fighting, and I'm going to tell you this story about how you're a terrible person. And he goes,
yeah.
Well, to show that I'm the kind of person that can forgive and forget, I'm willing to still let you in on this deal. And I'm like, yeah, but you came here as the only one who knew the story. Like, you already were doing forgive and forget.
Right. Yeah, it's just, you're right. It's just sociopath behavior. And I also really love, there's like a non-verbal conversation happening with John Candy and Stephanie Faracy where she's like, we need to talk about this. This is a lot of money. And Candy's like so wanting to smooth this over that he's like, yeah, we'll figure it out. I'll cut you a check for what I can. Like, Aykroyd's like, cut me a check. I'll cover the rest and you get the rest to me on Monday. And he's like, yeah, I can do that. And she clearly is like,
maybe we shouldn't.
Yeah, maybe we should talk about this. Like, so they cut to the car. Annette Bening is like really laying it on.
It's a great monologue from her about like the power of family and like what it means to be family. And I'm like, oh, she's earnest about this.
Yeah, and it's like she doesn't know what's going on. And finally she's like, I wouldn't be surprised if that was the kid's college money. And Aykroyd finally feels bad about this and is like, I got to turn around. And he goes back and does his big confession. And this leads to like the big action sequence that ends the movie. But even as a kid watching this, I was like, there's just like, it's raining hard when they go in the house, but only Aykroyd and Annette Bening go in. And I'm like, why did you leave the kids in the car to begin with?
Also,
it's weird.
Also, as an adult, I'm like, this cannot be a short conversation.
No.
So like, if you're like, hey, I'm gonna run in and drop off the Tupperware that I forgot, leave the kids in the car. Going in to say, hey, I've been lying and scamming you and stole money and made up a story, like,
right.
You're gonna be inside for a minute. Bring the kids in.
Right. Send them up to the room with a book or something and be like, go color or read or whatever the hell, because like we gotta sort some shit.
Yes.
So we get the random callback to the guy getting struck by the girls get out of the car and run toward this mine that they were playing in earlier. We forgot to mention that.
And told not to play in.
Caught. Yeah. So like, we got to go to the mine. Why? I don't know. They're directly in front of the house. It seems like the shortest path. So we see them run
reveals
to the mine.
That he's been fired 2 years ago?
Yes, and that he's like a coffee fetcher now.
2 years is a long time to still have any money.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's like they live paycheck to paycheck and all their stuff is facade. Like they barely scrape by, but he keeps stealing money.
Annette Bening didn't know any of this, so I'm like,
right.
What is he like? Well, how?
Presumably they had savings, and maybe it's a situation where like she doesn't have access to the bank accounts.
That's true.
So if he's like putting a little money in and like sort of bleeding slowly instead of hemorrhaging, maybe. So the girls are in this mine.
Also, this is some Your Crew level ADR for the twins running through the forest.
Yes.
I'm like, it sounds like friggin' E.G. Daly, who voiced Tommy Pickles. They're like, get her in the studio. Yeah. She does the little kid voice.
Can I play in the basement with Yorku?
Yeah.
So they end up down this mine shaft, and Candy and Aykroyd are looking for them, and they get there, and they hear the kids, and Aykroyd immediately is like, well, you go. And he's like, you're their father.
But also, like, objectively, you don't need to send an adult down there. Adults are heavier than children.
Probably do. Yeah, I think you probably can't rescue these young children without an adult going down after them.
Why?
I guess.
Send the rope down and be like,
they're dumb children. You gotta hurt them a little better than that.
I think we could have.
But so they don't make a plan. Aykroyd goes down by himself, and then Candy's like, "Oh, I should go get a rope." And
I thought Candy told him he was going to go get a rope and help.
Oh, maybe. But Aykroyd doesn't wait for help. He just crawls out of the mine shaft.
And somehow misses the giant bear.
Yeah, really odd. You would like smell this bear in that
and
scenario,
hear the bear.
Like. Yeah. So they get out. They go back to the house. Candy does puts the very much like Dennis Nedry.
It's
puts
super Dennis Nedry.
And uses the rope as sort of a pulley anchor point to pull up the rope. And there's the Bart the bear face to face with the bald-headed killer bear of Clare County, who chases him through the woods and back to the house.
We get an obvious stunt double when John Candy slipped in the mud, and I was like,
yes.
Oh, wow. Like, I was like, you don't have any... I was like, you had a beefy stuntman for the water sports. Why can't he come back and do the mud fall?
And there's also a beefy stuntman under the door when the bear is jumping on it.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, why couldn't that stuntman perform this? So he's like... He's standing in front of the door, like, big bear, chase me. And nobody's understanding what he's saying.
They're all excited that he's back, family's bonding. And he's trying to get out the sentence. He's going, big bear, chase. Big bear, chase me. And then boom, the bear knocks the door down and comes into the cabin.
Yeah. And so there's this, he's chasing Dan Aykroyd around the room, and he's like fighting him off with a poker and then
also somehow the
fishing paddle or a boat paddle.
The guy who runs the resort has like bear senses.
Yes, yeah.
He's like, it's been awakened.
I will say the bear does roar, like that would be loud as hell. So if they're
during
not
a thunderstorm.
I really feel like the bear noise would carry. And also all the screaming of the people in the cabin. I could see it calling his attention. But he comes in with the gun lamp and is like, it's loaded, which is just truly insane.
But then he also has to plug in the lamp in order to shoot it.
I think that's just a gag.
But it's very funny.
Yeah, it is. He takes the shade off. The shade isn't on it. It's just like a bulb at the end of a gun.
Is the shade off?
The shade is off, yeah.
I wish they had like established, because we have like a little carnival in town moment. They should have, John Candy should have gone to the shooting range, and it should have been like the one thing he can like show up Roman on.
Yeah.
Because eventually totally he like takes the gun from the guy and he shoots the bear. And I was like, it would have, a little payoff would have been nice for this.
Although to be fair, they are a foot and a half from this bear's giant ass.
It's a point blank range.
If you can't make that shot, you might be blind, completely blind.
Maybe. So we get some bear butt,
and
it runs away. Do you think they just like made a plastic thing and like rubber banded it to this bear?
I honestly couldn't tell
because it doesn't look like real bear. It doesn't look like real skin.
Right. That probably is it. It just seems bonkers if so.
Because I was trying to also figure out how they did the head thing. Because again, it doesn't look like skin. It looks like a fake thing.
Yeah, but also I don't know what bear skin looks like, so maybe it's possible that...
But like, it can't look that different than human skin. They're like other animal skins.
Yeah, I don't know. I really have no idea. I was looking for it a little bit and didn't see any answers. It wouldn't shock me if they shaved this bear's butt, but it also seems crazy if that's what they did.
But it looks plasticky to me.
Yeah, it does. So then we're like packing up to leave and go home, and Aykroyd's like, well, I'll see you at home. And Candy's like, what's he talking about? And his wife reveals like, oh, by the way, they're staying with us until they get
When did they lose the house?
Yeah.
When did they lose their house?
Well, I think it's like they're going to sell the house because they need money.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
So it's like, they're going to sell the house and then move into an apartment or something like that.
Oh, and then, this is also where Buck and Cammy, she's like, I want you to go back lovesick and heartbroken and compare every girl to me. And I'm like,
yeah,
I'm sorry. I don't care about this.
Who cares? I don't care about this. Yeah. So they race home, and then we get this really fun scene that honestly I'm like, this should just be in the movie, where they're like at the bar and dancing
for the 109th birthday.
Yeah. And they're doing Land of 1,000 Dances and singing. Like, this would be a thing where you give Roman a little bit of positive, right? Where it's like,
he's got the gift of gab. He's fun.
Yeah. And it's like he saved that party from being a disaster, that night from being a disaster.
Yeah.
Which is a minor quibble.
And I love that song too. I think I meant to request it at your wedding, and I don't think I did.
I don't think we had that one. We had Shout, but not that one.
Yeah. I was like, the one that sounds very similar.
Yeah.
Similar.
It feels like two. Yeah. It would have been fun, but we did not think of that one. But yeah, I was reading reviews, and this movie got just crushed. Like, the one review was like, the only fun part of this movie is the Land of 1,000 Dances over the credits, and it's like, it just shocks me that, like, I know that I have a soft spot for this movie. It makes me rate it higher.
But there's more good things about this movie than that.
Right. Yeah, I would give this a soft recommend. You have to rent it, which I like. I think I got rid of my DVD at some point where I was like, oh, I watched this movie once a year with my family. I don't need to own this. And then it was like, oh, of course we did it for the podcast. So
yeah, because I looked for it too.
Have to rent it.
Like, oh, I don't have it.
Yeah. But I'm sure it pops up on streaming services eventually over the course of a year, as these things tend to do. And it's fun. It's a fun movie. I have no apologies for liking.
If you
this
like
movie.
John Candy,
I think it's
you
funny.
like Dan Aykroyd, and
yeah,
you like a soft '80s comedy, go for it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's a movie you can watch with your grandma and it'll be fine. There's nothing like, there's a family. It is a family comedy that's not a kids movie, which is like not a thing that really
not
exists
common
anymore. Yeah. So I would recommend seeking this out if you've never seen it and you like John Candy or Dan Aykroyd. Both of them are great. It's just a fun bit of silliness and great performance from Candy, as pretty much always. And it's John Hughes. So if you're a John Hughes completist and you haven't hit it, you can check it off that way. Thank you so much for listening to the show. If you want more of us, you can find us at patreon.com/dissectingthe80s. If you sign up there at the $5 tier, you get about 30 hours of bonus content and a custom RSS feed, so you get to keep listening on your favorite podcast app. So check out patreon.com/dissectingthe80s and find out more about how you can support the show. If you want to support the show in another way, you can write us a review. If you haven't done that, please do it. We read those on the air. It's been quite a while. And follow or subscribe or whatever your podcast app uses for that term, the show. So you get it in your feed whenever it pops up every 2 weeks. And you can find us on Facebook and at Dissect the 80s on Twitter, and dissectingthe80s.com for everything else you might want to need about the show. We will be back in 2 weeks to celebrate Thanksgiving with the only Thanksgiving movie that exists, certainly the best one, Planes, Trains, and Automobiles.
Yeah.
Which they have morphed the poster art to be a Christmas thing and drives me crazy because it's a Thanksgiving movie. They made the pole, they're standing on like a North Pole pole, and I'm like, it's Thanksgiving. It's not a Christmas. It's the only Thanksgiving movie. Can we let it have the one thing that it has? But anyway, that'll be in 2 weeks. Thank you so much for listening to the show. I have been Tripp Leno.
I will always be Andrew Leno.
Until next time.
Don't you forget about me.
Dissecting the 80s is a Chum Some of This production.